Hello and welcome to the Treasured Page. I'm Melanie and this is our quiet crafting space. And today I want to have a look at working with papers that are handmade or homemade or recycled, tissue papers, tracing papers, vellum, scraps that could be from the kitchen such as freezer paper, glassine bags, something with some thinness to the paper, sometimes tissue papers that are translucent, any sort of papers that have got something interesting, and we're going to collect them all together and see if we can make these paper flowers. This could be a wax seal. You may have your own buttons or something that you could put in the middle. You choose whatever's in your scraps, whatever you've got to hand. It does not have to be this, but this is the idea. And on the back, that was just a square of washi tape, which I've used to stick it all together, hold it in place. You could use a label, you could use a sticker on the back, you could just use a scrap of paper just to seal it in. So we're going to look at all of those things. So if you would like to join me on this little junk journaling craft session, you will definitely need to close the door, shut yourself away, get a quiet space, get a nice drink, cozy yourself in, hunker down, snuggle in, and let's see if we can just make some time for ourselves today and block out the noise of everyday life. And let's just do something very simple and grab some scraps. So I'm going into my scrap tray, which I always have on the desk here. Straight away, I've got what I think is some, well, it's tissue paper. So it's either tissue paper or it's sewing paper. There's some sewing paper, some tissue papers, and these are my scraps of handmade paper. I think they were offcuts of something. You can also get these sometimes in the florist if you ever save things like that. That is rice paper. And then I've got a little scrap of freezer paper. That's all I have. Maybe that colour. So just really thin pieces. Tea bag, that could work. Tea bag, old tea bags. That would look nice, wouldn't it? Tea bag. Or pattern paper, something with some interest. Let's see where we go with all of this. But what you will need to begin with is something to give it a base. Let's just pick out an old piece. And I'm going to use a 1-inch circle punch, but you don't need to, because you could just tear this and be a square. What we'll do is take our circle punch and get going with this. And the glue that I'm going to be using is either a glitter glue, art glitter glue. I'm using Cosmic Shimmer and a Fabri-tac. Then I'm going to take this. So when I have a cup of tea, I don't put sugar or milk in. I just make the tea in a cup, in a mug. I take out the tea bag, and then I'm left with, the tea bag. I can empty the tea leaves out of the bag, and I will then rinse out the tea bag. So it does stain it, but it's still clean. And because I haven't introduced any dairy product or any sugar, essentially a laundered product at the end of the time when I get them back. So I'm just shredding them up into very little pieces. I don't know how well that's showing up. Let's maybe have a strip of white here so we can just see the size. Just little bits. Right, so I'm aware that my glue is soaking in, and I'm just starting to lay around. Just come over here with the... You just want the tatty torn edges sticking up. Doesn't matter at this point, you're just going to go around continuing to make layers. it. And then we can maybe come in with something more substantial. I'm going to go with the rice paper. I'm going to try and avoid the straight edges. I'd like torn edges all the way around. So again, we just get our pieces going round. Just keep adding. So I've just torn that in half, then I'm tearing it down into smaller pieces, taking off that very sharp edge. I just want rough edges all the way around. You can have some bits peeping through from the bottom. Doesn't matter, we'll just make it up as we go along. Just stick it down and relax into something. So it's going to look like a dog's dinner for the time being. So now we just want a slight contrast here. We'll come over with this one. But this could be different tissue papers, which would arguably be easier to tear because this has lots of fibres in it. Can you see? Oh, so it's not always going to tear how we want it. And then just sort of fill in where you can see gaps. If you want to check how it's going, you can just add a centre piece. And you can just then get an idea of what it would look like, so you can build the shape up into a more of a flower shape, so you can start to see where you want to put your maybe longer pieces. So I think I need a bit there, so I'm going to glue that one in position. We just keep going round, building up the layers. See, I've got 3 torn edges and that one isn't, but that doesn't matter because it's going to go into the circle. So just try and draw the circle back in every once in a while with your glue and stick just to the very outer rim of your glued circle. So rice paper has got fibres in it, paper fibres. Actually, I don't know too much about it, but I'm only going with what I'm looking at. And, you know, they're really tough. So you want to be mindful that if you tear it one way and you try to tear it through one of those fibres, it's not going to work. So you may, in that instance, have to just cut the thicker strands. And then I'm going to try the difference in texture creates more texture and interest. And the subtle differences of the colours, so this pattern is a vintage one, and you can really see the more natural tones that come from sort of an aged tissue paper. I'm never really sure if it's gone brown because it's aged. I mean, there is an element to that, but I think it might have been an unbleached paper to begin with. So therefore it was never white, it was always a cream. So just do another circle of glue. So that's where we've got so far. You can see the glue, and we'll just add a bit more. I like this glue because it's got a very fine nozzle, which helps. And this is a Cosmic Shimmer, and it's quite a sticky glue and dries quickly, but gives you lots of time to move things. Start putting bits of this down. So I wonder what everybody's projects are this week and what you've all been working on. Perhaps you're getting out another project right now and you're just listening to me while you do your own projects. So I'd be interested to know what you're doing, and whether when you watch craft videos, do you craft along with me with a different craft, or do you have a go at what I'm doing here just by simply pulling out your own scraps? Because it absolutely doesn't have to be the scraps that I've got. It doesn't have to be handmade paper. This is tissue paper from packaging. So this would have either been in a pair of shoes, or it could have been around a gift, and just little things that I've saved. And as you've seen, I've got my scrap tray here with all the little pieces. You know, we could actually, let's do that. Let's put that blue in. How about that? So just tearing up these pieces now to try and go into the gaps from the last one. This one is coming out slightly longer, which is nice, so that we get a bit of a contrast in the different lengths of what are our petals in our very scrappy flower. Now the only thing I would perhaps say is that this glue is a wet glue, and you're using very fine thin paper. You will get the possibility of having a soggy piece of paper and everything gets a little bit damp. It's going to dry solid and probably dry clear, so don't worry too much, but just be aware that if you're using a wet glue or a PVA glue with the tissue paper, everything feels a bit soggy. Adding in some paper of a different colour. They're a little bit straight, so on this one I'm just going to tear the corner off it, and here the same. Just give it more of a petal feel. Put the centre in just to give me an idea. You can see that if you're aiming for a circular shape, where the gaps are, just by putting that centerpiece in, which I possibly won't use, but I could because it is now within the same colorway as the blue. What I used before was some skeleton leaves, and so I'm just sort of working out whether they'd look nice on the back. So I think they would add something to that, so we'll come away with that piece. Find my skeleton leaf pack here. Oh, I've had these so long, I wouldn't be able to tell you where I got them, but I'm fairly sure you can get them on eBay or the online. Lots of good quality online craft shops. Try and buy local and support your local crafty shops if you can. They come in all different colours as well. I've gone for a natural colour, but it might be really fun to have these bright and be Christmassy. We might not even want to use those if you haven't got skeleton leaves, or they're too expensive. You might have a bit of cheesecloth or some old fabric scraps. I mean, these are scrappy flowers. They're going to look great in fabric, but we're doing them with paper. But we could just add a little bit of this. Let's see if I like it. That went on the floor. Just going to cut off some strip pieces. So the cheesecloth is often bought in the cookery section and would be used to wrap up herbs, maybe, to make an infusion in the water. It's called something, isn't it? I can't remember. Could use it at Christmas for the mulled wine. What else do we use? No idea. There we are. For cooking and straining, so you probably use it for jam making, and for wrapping cheese curds and things like that. And then for straining vegetables, salads, soups and puddings. Yeah, I do remember my grandma making real proper traditional suet puddings and Christmas puddings, and I'm fairly sure she would have used a cheesecloth for getting the pudding out of the boiling water. Oh gosh, I can't even tell you. That would have been very old-fashioned, because I'm going back a very long time ago, and she was, so she's well, it would have been a Victorian recipe. Not that she was Victorian, but her mother would have been. And yeah, they would have made that in a traditional basin, pudding basin. And I'm using cheesecloth to wrap it in. They would pull the whole lot, or muslin, probably muslin, thinking about it. Right, okay, this is all well and good, but it is bunching up in the middle, and the whole point is to not make it too thick. So this idea is fine, but just be aware that you're adding more bulk in the middle of it. And in fact, what I'm going to do is start trimming out some of it. And also, oh, no, that's coming to pieces. I'm going to use a little bit of silicone glue blowed out. All right, so we just got, and then these little bits, I might just be able to trap it in there. Well, let's revert back to the original. I'm just going to now put the skeleton leaves at the back. If you don't have skeleton leaves, that's going to be our front. We've got to come up with some idea. Actually, that's quite good because the glue's had a chance to dry. See, that looks actually not too bad now, to have that central piece and just leave it at that, and that would be ideal. And then you could embellish it a wee bit further by putting the leaves on there. Excuse me. And having them just poke out, maybe 3 might be nice. Sort of picture how it might be in a journal, which is better. That one's a bit broken. Can you see? Sometimes they come out like that in the pack and the tips have been spoiled. That one's not much better, but I think we can work with that. And then, yeah, just 3. And then just sort of picture how it might go in a journal. I'm going to angle that up. So they're not sort of stuck out too much. They fit in nicely on a page. But that's really what we're aiming for. So you just want some scraps. And you can tear out a bit of, you know, that would be nice with a torn edge as well. So you could roughly draw a circle and then just rip it out for the centerpiece. The other thing we could try is a nice piece of music paper there. We could have a circle of the music page, a circle of the book page, which is what I did for this one. So that's what I did there already. So we, but I'm just thinking at the back we could go with some lace instead of the leaf. So when it's stuck down on the page, you would see the lace, which is a nice addition. So this is quite a nice lace. I picked this up on the Isle of Wight in a little craft shop, or like a jumble shop, but it was all haberdashery bits. And see if 3 would work. And she had loads of trims and amazing things. That's different, isn't it? So that's really nice. So it would flop down, but not when it's on a page. So for that, we want Fabri-tac on the back. Everything's sticky, so I'm not quite ready to put that down on a page. But that's so far so good. Let's move that one out of the way, and let's go with some music paper and a whole circle punch. So because I use fragments of music paper in a project, I'm all gluey. I will keep those bits. That's quite nice. And then this can go, oh yeah, see, just instantly gives it a little bit. Still want something there though. Where were we? That way up. Is that right? I think it wants some ink now, thinking about it. I'm going to use Vintage Photo Distress Ink. An aged feel. That's better. Yeah, something here. So what can we use? Did we? I think I've exhausted. Oh, I was going to put my freezer paper in here, so I might still do that. And then something here. So I could go back to those leaves. Where were they? So they would then come out here. Gosh, that would be a real embellished one, wouldn't it? Why not? Let's stick one there, and one there. And then what we'll do is seal that down with more glue, Fabri-tac, and then we'll put something over the top to protect it all. I've got these little vintage labels here, so I'm wondering if I've got something that will just, oh there we are, circle. That's perfect. I think they're stickers as well. So these have come from AliExpress, but I have seen them elsewhere, and I think you could probably get them on eBay, but they all can't have, originated, I think, from China, and therefore you can get them cheaper. Right, I'm going to say that back is actually done, and then we'll just work on the front. But even that looks pretty, doesn't it? So the back is just as important, particularly if this is a product that you are giving or a gift, something that I would be selling. I would definitely want that finished and made to look pretty. What I quite like the idea is if I'm going to round the corners here, or just take off those edges and make it more petal-like or leaf-like. Just take off the harshness of it. Well, that gives a completely different look, doesn't it? Okay, who would have thought? Just those little pieces taken off changes the look, but we have got the sharp points there, so we're going to add that central thing, and then you could say that was done. I'll show you just to finish off with some freezer paper strips, and how you really don't need much. It tears lovely, it really does. So because it's got a wax resist on the paper, we're going to want the silicone glue, and that will hopefully stick nicely to that fabric. Texture there. And just some extra bits here and there. And then one last big circle of glue just to smoosh it all around in the centre, because I'm now going to add my music paper right in the middle. We could be using tweezers to put these pieces together, and that would be probably more sensible thinking about it, so I didn't need that piece. And then that's the back and that's the front, and it doesn't want a button particularly in the centre, but you couldn't you just add a button if you have one, or you could if you've got a stamped seal. That's how that would look. But I think I'm going to leave it plain. I just love the fact that the music is doing the talking, and then that looks lovely with the lace. So I just want to see what it looks like on a journal page. I'm going to use this one because this is the one I'm working on at the moment. It's quite nice on the front, isn't it? And just as nice on the cream. And then it should work well on darker, and also with the blue, because that will tie in, because it's actually got some of the blue. These are my botanical dyed papers using organic vegetables and botanics and plants, and it looks nice on a cream or a tea stained. You know, that would look lovely, wouldn't it? Take that away. Oh, I can't, hang on. Or at the top. And yeah, the other thing to do is you could put quite a sturdy piece of card there, and then that becomes a little tuck spot. But I do quite like it as an embellishment. I think that's sweet. It might be nice to tuck things behind, but because it's got the lace, I mean, that could just go on a belly band, couldn't it? That could be, you get the strip of something, and it just be the belly band. So there we are. That's what we've been up to, making scrappy pieces. And I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts on that. And if you have a go, do please post some pictures up to the Facebook page. We are the Treasured page on Facebook, and you can follow me on Instagram as well, and check out my videos for how to dye papers and other bits and bobs that you may find useful. But I hope that you have been able to settle into this craft today and enjoy something. I hope you've learnt something or taken something from it, given you some inspiration and ideas, because this absolutely doesn't have to be added to a journal. This could look super on top of a present, and if you wanted to wrap something in maybe a brown paper, very simply with a piece of ribbon and something like this on the top with a lovely tag, I think you know, how cool would that be for a really special gift or something a little bit different, or a real Victorian vintage Christmas. So I think there's plenty of ideas there, and it doesn't always have to go in our journals. It could be used for gifting and decorating. Oh wow, you give me the ideas, because I can't think of anything. So if you've got any ideas of where I could use something like this other than gifts or journals, I would be really keen to know, because I have so enjoyed making that, and I hope that you have too. So thanks guys, thank you for joining me. I'd love to see you again here at the Treasured page, and if you have found that this has been interesting for you, please do like and subscribe to the channel. Keep an eye out for more videos. Press the bell icon and be alerted to my next installment from my quiet crafting space. Above all else, guys, just slow down and make crafting time for you. Bye bye now.